In an age where we're hearing that the economy is improving, record job numbers obtained, lower unemployment, more Americans off of food stamps, and so on, it's easy to overlook how the U.S. middle class is still struggling. Yes, consumer confidence was still up again in January 2019, but there are still major red flags signaling that something is just not right. One of the big indicators that trouble is ahead are the continuing retail store closings that are expected to be even bigger in 2019. Payless Shoes just announced in February that they were closing 2,100 U.S. stores. When consumers can't keep up with rising prices because of income stagnation, retail stores usually take the brunt first, but they're not alone. The reality is most Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck. Living paycheck to paycheck means you're only one major catastrophe away from financial ruin. Add to this that 70% of Americans are in debt, and that more of them haven't been able to make ends meet in over a year. Over 7 million Americans are 90 days past due on their car payments. Scrambling to pay debt payments each month gives no financial reserves to fall back on, which means no margin for error. Unfortunately, this is happening to Americans more and more. So when you examine the middle class, you begin to see that the numbers don't lie. Today, half of American workers make less than $31,000 a year. It is virtually impossible to keep middle class status for any family with children earning that kind of money. It's interesting that as the middle class has been declining, the majority of Americans still believe that they're a part of it. But the numbers say our incomes have stagnated as the cost of living has soared, and that has brought on this steady erosion. 68% of Americans believe they are still members of the middle class. In reality, the middle class makes up only 50% of the U.S. population. Compare that to a 61% middle class back in 1971. Even with a strong labor market, wage growth continues to lag behind. Today's real average wage after inflation has about an identical purchasing power as 40 years ago. To add insult to injury, any wage gains that have occurred have been mostly paid to the highest earning class of workers. This wage disparity has been one of the components that activists have used to demand raising the minimum wage. Since 2013, wage increases have averaged roughly 2 to 3% per year. Even during the high inflation years of the 1970s and early 80s, it was not uncommon for wages to jump 7 to 9%. Then there is the cost of price inflation. In 1973, a $4.03 per hour pay rate had the same purchasing power of a pay rate of over $23 today. Despite all the talk, if things worsen in the U.S. economy, which I think is a strong possibility, it will be harder for the U.S. middle class to make ends meet. I pray that I'm wrong, but I see a lot of hardship coming up for the average person and family. This while the U.S. debt has now passed the astronomical total of over $22 trillion. Two-thirds of this debt is held by the public. Government owes this to buyers of U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds. It includes individuals, companies, and foreign governments. This is a real debt that, if unpaid, will be put on the backs of the American people that are already struggling. Unfortunately, neither political party is talking about it. The debt keeps running ever higher. So here are some important things that will go up in price during 2019 and beyond that will add further stress to middle class and lower class people. There are more homeless than ever on the U.S. West Coast and in big cities like New York. Many working class people can't afford the high cost of housing. This means that many will depend more and more on shelters and living out of their cars. Fox Business News in January 2019 reported that several food giants like Hershey Company, Coca-Cola, and others will have higher prices. This is to offset higher shipping and ingredient costs. Consumers can expect to pay 1 and 2% more. Meats, processed fruits, and oils could actually come down slightly, but produce prices are expected to go 4 to 6% higher because of El Niño, which means U.S. consumers will pay more for vegetables such as lettuce, celery, and tomatoes. The average U.S. family will average about $400 more in 2019. Prescription drugs are estimated to increase 4.92% in 2019. Even with President Trump's encouragement for drug companies to lower their costs, many have rejected the notion and plan on increasing prices. Part A and Part B Medicare are seeing increased premiums, deductibles, and co-payments from 2018. Serious illnesses will cause further difficulties for many in the middle class. In 2018, Americans faced the 8th straight year of higher employer-based health insurance. Premiums have jumped by 55% during that period. That's double the rate of any wage increases and triple the rate of inflation. It's expected that in 2019, employer-based health insurance will leap another 5%. This is occurring at the same time deductibles are getting bigger. The average vehicle in 2018 cost between $32,000 to $35,000. Car prices are expected to go up even further in 2019. The car industry says the price increases are because of new tariffs and climbing interest rates. Middle-class people are being slowly squeezed out of the market. This eventually hurts car sales and those in the auto industry. In 2019, travel prices will increase according to experts 3.7% for hotels and 2.6% for airline flights. They say it's because of the global economy pressures and rising oil prices. Comcast Cable and Netflix have raised their 2019 rates. Comcast says it's because of rising programming costs in both broadcast and sports. They put in place a 3.3% increase. And Netflix has raised their U.S. rates by 13% to 18%, its biggest increase since it started 12 years ago. A list of price increases have started in 2019 from the U.S. Postal Service. Priority Mail Express has risen 3.9%, Priority Mail by 5.9%, and First Class Mail by 10%. The popular Forever stamp has risen by 5 cents to 55 cents, a 10% increase. Prices on just about everything are continuing to go up in the U.S. The factor of inflation gradually reduces the buying power of the dollar over time. This influences the cost of almost every product and service. 2019 will see more of the same. We'll see what happens to the middle class through 2019, but the signs so far show a continuing decline in wages and purchasing power. This is H.A. Graves.